Hello everyone, this is Ahmad Moradi. Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of my presentation today is talking about wealth management and strategies that help our accredited investors to participate in a great wave of opportunity that it exists in the private equity market versus public. Uh, I like to share this presentation with you because I had to go through this exercise myself in order to create the next generation of wealth strategies. And along with that, then you can become cognizant of what is happening in the marketplace and how you can take advantage of it. So, with that in mind, I start my slide. First of all, we started a company called METAXCHANGE.AI back in 2023, to be precise, in August. And then we were able to get this company listed on NASDAQ Private Market effective April 15th, 2025. So with that achievement, now we have created a $300 million market cap company while we are waiting for IPO market, which gives us an advantage that once we are in the secondary, going to an IPO is relatively short time span, subject to filings and no common status from SEC. And then in 3 months, we obtain a trading symbol from NASDAQ. But more importantly is I wanted to share with you some of the macro view of how the market is and where we are going in the next few years. We use a lot of intuitive and AI algorithms to create the wealth and opportunity. But today, according to PwC and market studies by many analysts, average timeline of a startup to IPO takes about 14 years. So what does it mean? In other words, if I'm an employee of this company and I'm starting up a project, if I'm 20 years old, I got to become 34-year-old in order to be able to cash out or create liquidity for all the hard work that I have done. So this became unfair, which private market has been suffering against the public companies that they have been competing against. More importantly, the earlier investors, they have taken the highest level of risk to take the company to the next level of an IPO. And again, it's not fair for the guys that invested 14 years ago or 20 years ago or so forth, now to create the exit strategy. So the time span has become one of the barriers to market entry into the IPO. More importantly, the numbers talk for themselves according to PwC, where you can see numbers went up really in 2021 and then started diminishing and is relative right now back to 2025, where you can see SPACs and traditional IPO coming into formation. So with that, we decided that we, as Maxwell Rand, we are going to take one of our portfolio company, METAXCHANGE, as a special purpose vehicle with zero on everything and start building the layer cake to qualify the company for investment. So subsequently, we have been able to get NASDAQ listing for METAXCHANGE. There are about 30 million shares at $10 a share available for through the secondary market for the buyers to participate. So now let's talk about a little bit about NASDAQ private market and what does it mean. In general, for those of you who are familiar with the name of NASDAQ, it's been around since 1971. Primarily was designed for the broker dealers to serve the public, and they have been into what they call primary market. During the last decade and so forth, with the inclusion of family offices and private equity and private fund and hedge fund managers and wealth management accounts and so forth, there came a birth of a secondary market that they call private market. They believe private market is larger than public and over the time. So this started back in years ago. And then subsequently, there are videos in here if you want to obtain a copy of this presentation and dive in more. Just send us an email and we'll send you the presentation so you can take a look at it and get some input. But more importantly, the idea is to educating you. So private market now is becoming a very vital market and growing, where NASDAQ private market started. Now, if you look at the bottom of the list, you see there are only all the unicorns are listed with NASDAQ Private. And that is the advantage of NASDAQ Private. You have to meet the qualification. You have to either be the employees or you have to be the investors or private companies. So everything that we talk about in here has to go through KYC, AML, due diligence, approval. So that is why it's extremely valuable and important for us to educate you about NASDAQ private market as a secondary. And for those of you who are FINRA registered or your broker dealer, you have to be aware that majority of the market is already going into this kind of services that becomes extremely valuable for the marketplace that we are working on, such as secondary. But secondary is becoming much stronger than primary, and here is why. First of all, you can invest into pre-IPO companies that you could not get access to. So you can buy, sell, trade, and that's what the institutionals are doing right now. This is designed for the accredited investor, for institutionals, to keep the deep fake, the fake guys, and the threat actors and everybody else out of this equation. And more importantly, when you start doing this kind of activities in here under registration, under group and compliance, NASDAQ private market becomes your facilitator. So when you're doing your transfer and settlement, once you go through all of these steps that you go through, then the transaction takes place and legitimately is done. And by the way, NASDAQ charges 1% transaction fee plus some other third-party fees that might be included. In here on NASDAQ private market, as you can see, it is designed to launch the next generation of electronic secondary liquidity platform that they call the second market. And it really started back in 2013, but in 2025, this is taken off. That is becoming one of the biggest market and opportunity for the group of accredited investors that they can participate into this kind of things. But more importantly, it is by invitation only. You have to be a $5 million or higher net worth that you have to prove to NASDAQ authorities. And then you become a member here where you can buy, sell, trade stocks. Okay, and you can also do primary these days. Trading marketplace, this is an example of a screenshot of how the layout and the transactions may look. It was facilitated more than 40 billion. Now this has increased, okay? And we were one of the 400 companies that we have participated. And that is one of the reasons that this marketplace is creating an opportunity and a buzz that it can give your stakeholders, your investors, as broker dealer, an opportunity where we call about METAXCHANGE.AI as a low-hanging fruit, because we've already registered this company, and this company originally with the disclosure of signing the term sheet and making an agreement with NASDAQ, you get access to this kind of volumes of either being a buyer or seller, and then once you verify your holdings and agreement and everything else, that it goes either as a US or non-US citizen into the transaction, then you end up sharing a link platform with METAXCHANGE shareholder. We send you that link that you press release announcing with the NASDAQ listing. Then we provide that listing to shareholders with their name, equity to get them started. This is the action item right now we have updated with our stockholders. So when they get to METAXCHANGE market through NASDAQ private market, they can make their bid and offering toward here, and then we can accept or decline. Currently, when you receive an order and so forth, it comes through this. You have to approve it. So as a buyer or as a seller, both of you have to agree. And that is why we brought Maxwell Rand as a facilitator, that in case that you do not qualify for NASDAQ Private, you can invest into NASDAQ Maxwell Rand Pipe and be able to buy the shares that right now available at $10 a share. And the first auction is for $800,000 to start with. Accredited individual investors now eligible to buy shares on second market according to NASDAQ. Second market now presents the accredited investors only. So those are the companies that they are ready before they go public, as you can see. And that is one of the reasons METAXCHANGE is a perfect venue right now for growth, both on organic side and through acquisition. So we are definitely actively pursuing those markets. But as an investor, you have the option that when you sign up and you log in, you can look at the market, you can post your bid, you can negotiate your trade, and the transfer of funds and settlement takes place purely by the authorization of the company and NASDAQ private market authorities. And by the way, if you have any kind of a technical difficulties, you can reach out to us directly at Maxwell Rand at inquiry at maxwellrand.com, and we'll be able to guide you or connect you to the right person, including to the officers of NASDAQ Private Market. But here's an example of a Bank of America that it entered into acquisitions. We have Allen and Company, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Raymond James, Morgan Stanley. All of these companies uh, are entering into this market because of these possibilities. We see private equity, family offices, SPV secondary fund, mutual fund asset management, hedge fund, cross funds. All of these are part of these transactional details. So you can see, and then normally if it is 100 because you're doing investment, or 500, 2 million, 10 million, 10 million plus, these are selections that you have to make, but normally they won't allow you to do less than $50,000 transaction in here. I want to also stress the fact that research and everything else by PitchBook and other publishers are explaining that private equity is the throes of being the biggest and most consequential transformation since the industry's conception of 50 years ago. This is extremely important to appreciate, and if you click on it again, that gives you the articles. But more importantly, who's betting on this wealth management? So you can look at some of these guys that you can see: BTGs, Swiss Life, MedLife, Vinci's, BTG Capitals, Union Bank, Clear, 361, BlackRock. All of these entities are investing through their assets and converging their assets from public to private. Okay, so most alternative asset managers historically built their firms to meet the needs of sophisticated investors who represent large pools of capital allocated across public and private sectors. So that you can appreciate. The private or secondary is becoming a $3 trillion marketplace. So this is extremely important to understand that analysts by various institutions predict that the VC secondaries will send increased activity. And also VCs and LPs have the opportunity that they have a lot of low-hanging fruits that have not matured yet or become unicorn. They can bring it as an acquisition into the equation, and then we can bring this confidentially into a meta exchange acquisition strategy and discuss with Maxwell Rand even for liquidity, capital inclusion, etc., etc. So another organization that just recently joined this bandwagon is KKR. They call it KKR Plus. You can click again on this video to watch the presentation of the video and the announcement that they have made. Those of you who know KKR is, therefore we don't have to go through explanation. If you don't, you can take a look at them. KKR joined Capital Group as partners. These two created a public and private combination where they can start creating predictive revenue and creating dividends for the public at large. So there are a lot of things are happening in here. At Max AI, we are looking at that kind of situation from 2008, and we started going through many months of transformation where we used to have our wealth management in Switzerland, and we had our brokerage house in Europe. And since then, as we transformed, we continued keeping this transformation till the right opportunity arrived post what we call market crash, which we are still living in a volatile public market. But in privacy, we felt that if we want to measure primary versus secondary with $3 trillion liquidity, that gives us an opportunity to introduce and talk to organizations that they provide securities-based lending and share with them the advantages, risk, and examples of what is happening Some of these institutions already are participating, some of these institutions are adopting, and some of these institutions have no clue what we are talking about. So security-based lending provides capital to help people buy real estate or personal property or invest in a business. This kind of loan is generally offered to high net worth individuals by large financial institutions and private banks. The lender becomes a lien holder on the securities after the borrower deposits them into a special account. Borrower benefit from easy and fast access to capital, lower interest rates, and greater repayment flexibility. The SBL arrangement lets borrower avoid buying and having to sell their shares. These are all value proposition. So, what we are doing right now is looking at this as an opportunity where our investors don't have to even sell their shares. So, if they set up an SBL account, and we are acknowledging or encouraging them that they should contact their own wealth management account, talk to them, and if they are informed about secondary market, they provide the facility. If they are not informed, they can do a research about it. But we believe that organizations that we are talking to, like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch, etc., they're all getting into the secondary offering and secondary market for high net worth individual. Currently, through Meta Exchange, we have a $75 million pre-IPO where 15 million is committed, and we are actively seeking 60 million pre-IPO Series A for a buy. And auction terms are accepted, so therefore you can reach us directly, or you can place your auction on NASDAQ Private, and we can negotiate individually if you like. But ultimately, is we are moving $60 million into NASDAQ Private Market to do additional acquisition and growth and expansion. So therefore, we can qualify the company for the primary market when we feel the time is right. Uh, Meta Exchange enjoys partnership and development through these stakeholders under ESG environment, where they have technologically advanced real-time platforms. These media hubs are registered as a trademark and technology with the U.S. Trademark Office. And then we subsequently, as Maxwell ranked in this 2025, we are working on 3 pipe deal flows. Meta Exchange, which I just explained to you. The other one is AI, and the third one is called, which is a disruptor, AI technology, AI TV technologies. So with that in mind, we would be more than happy to share values and information with you once you sign an NDA and provide your KYC and AML. And at the end, we want to thank you. If you need to visit us, go to mxcg.ai or simply send me an email at amoradi@mxcg.ai. And thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your day. Ciao for now.